To set an example for the passengers, the flight attendant was the first to take off her stockings. It wasn't just the women's stockings that had to be removed. Every passenger's watch, necklace, ring, and other accessories also had to be taken off. Even the shoes on everyone's feet had to be completely removed. An elderly man seemed hesitant about taking off his shoes. They were a new pair. Today was the first time I wore these shoes. What's more important, shoes or your life? Though reluctant, he eventually handed his shoes to the flight attendant. His wife beside him quickly whispered words of comfort. "I'll buy you a new pair." It turned out their flight had experienced a mechanical malfunction. The only option now was an emergency landing. At the same time, staff from various ground departments were racing against the clock to coordinate. To prevent a fire upon landing, the runway had to be covered with firefighting foam in advance. Based on the remaining fuel of the aircraft, the ground preparations only had 40 minutes. The fire department mobilized the city's entire foam reserves. According to the requirements for an emergency landing, the entire runway needed to be covered with at least 1 kilometer of firefighting foam. But even with all fire trucks and personnel dispatched, it would be too late to complete the spraying operation before the plane lands. After careful consideration, the fire chief decided to take a risk with pincer tactics. However, the greatest pressure at this moment still fell on the captain in the cockpit. And willing to affect the crew's morale, he locked himself alone in the restroom. The heavy burden made him cough uncontrollably. But when the chief purser approached, he immediately forced a smile. She didn't want this tension to disturb the others, especially the chief purser. After all, she and the captain were married, although they had been arguing about household chores just before takeoff. As veterans with over a decade of flying experience, the past quarrels no longer mattered in this life and death moment. Both focused intently on their own tasks, doing everything possible to prepare for an emergency landing. As the cabin crew conducted the final safety checks, a male passenger slipped the chief purser a note. He had brought over 800,000 yuan in cash, intending to settle his workers' wages. Now, with life hanging in the balance, he didn't want to die without leaving some account. So he jotted down the details of the unpaid wages, requested the chief purser to forward it later. Seeing his firm attitude, the chief purser had no choice but to temporarily accept it. Time was running out. The captain assigned the youngest co-pilot to the rear cabin. Despite the captain's calm and composed expression, everyone in the cockpit was well aware of the risks of an emergency landing. During the final confirmation of the entire crew, with only 6 minutes left on the countdown,